Thank you for tuning in. Your Madison City Schools broadcast will begin momentarily. Thank you for tuning in. Your Madison City Schools broadcast will begin momentarily. Thank you for tuning in. Your Madison City Schools broadcast will begin momentarily. Thank you for tuning in. Your Madison City Schools broadcast will begin momentarily. Thank you for tuning in. Your Madison City Schools broadcast will begin momentarily.
Call to order the Madison City School Board of Education for October 26, 2021. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Keene, can we have a roll call, please? Here.
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 Board, can I have, can you review the agenda? Can I have a motion in a second?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Lesman and second by Mr. Comments. We got an approved agenda? Oh, I'm sorry. Can we have a vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? Motion to approve the agenda pass. Dr. Nichols, do we have any presentations?
Mr. Vice President, no, sir, we do not today.
All right. So that moves us to public comments. Ms. Keene, do we have any members of the public that would like to address the board? Yes, we do. All right. We have allotted 3 minutes for the public to address the board. You're more than welcome to come.
King. I hadn't seen Ms. Rizzo. I hadn't seen- She's not here that I know of.
All right.
My name is Jovita Parnell. I've got 3 children in the Madison City School. So on September the 21st, you guys took away the brief no mask option stating that you wanted to bring it to a vote. And now you cannot bring it to a vote at this time because you don't have enough members. However, you've had several meetings since September the 21st. And I just wondered, why didn't we do it sooner? Why wait, since the numbers are pretty much similar to what they were at that time? Even when you make mask optional, what's the plan? Because we are now in flu season, and in Alabama, that is from now until May. So numbers of flu or COVID could go up. So then what's going to happen at that time? Are we going to just have a few mask optional time followed by just mask? Like, what's the end game? What's the plan? Personally, I think all of us would have a little more respect if we could just say, we're just going to be wearing masks, period. You wore it all last year. You're wearing it this year. Like, when is it going to stop? Like, is this just, COVID's not going anywhere. We already know that. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So are masks here to stay? And if so, just say it. Like, why are we playing like the numbers game? Oh, the numbers are down. Oh, the numbers are up. Oh, mask, no mask. It's confusing. Let's just be like consistent and just say this is what's going to happen. And that's that. Like, I think a lot of parents would appreciate that a lot more than coming here and saying the same things and doing the same things. If we just had, this is what's going to happen, full stop, period. Quite frankly, this is going to be the last year that my kids are going to be in Madison City Schools, not because we're moving, but because I don't like the inconsistency. And I would like to choose if I want to put a face diaper on my kids the entire school year. Morale is down, volunteers are down, donations are down, because people have had enough. Like, we're looking for actual like leadership where you just say, this is what we're going to do. This is what we want for the kids. Some of the teachers are like crazy. If you touch someone, we're going to tell your parents. What is that? Like, now touching is bad because they go out on the playground, they're touching their friends. They're going around playing tag. That's what kids are supposed to do. But we are putting like fear in our children to just take a breath, to just smile, to just touch a hand. Like, it's not that serious. It really isn't. COVID, we have shots. We have vaccines. If you want it, get it. If your vaccine doesn't work, well, they say you might not die anyway. So just live life, because driving your car, I can get in an accident, I can die. Food you eat, you can get salmonella, you can die. There's plenty of things out there that can kill us. So we just need to start living life and not out of fear. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to our Madison City Police here this evening. Good evening, Dr. Nichols and School Board. My name is Dave Smith, Madison City parent. I speak today to address Madison City Schools' mask mandate. From CDC data that I pulled today, since kids aged 5 to 11 seem to be the board's new focus, there have been 166 COVID deaths nationwide in kids aged 5 to 11 since January 2020. That's 166. Extrapolating that 22-month total to a yearly trend, that's 91 deaths nationwide in this age group per year. Also from CDC data that I pulled today, that same population had 101 flu and pneumonia deaths. That's 10 more than COVID nationwide per year. Did we ever mask or threaten vax mandates for flu or pneumonia? In the September 30th meeting, some of you claimed this was the hardest vote you ever had to cast to vote down Dr. Nichols' proposed path to masks optional. Was that your conscience calling? Did you know then that you would continue this masking madness indefinitely with no ending target metric to aim for? I look forward to Dr. Nichols' second proposal on this matter promised this Friday. We're doing it for the 12,000 kids the board pleads over and over. It's for the kids is one of the oldest heartstring pulling politician ploys in the book. Do you play us actual rocket scientist parents for fools? 12,000 kids doesn't excuse mismanaging basic statistics or misrepresenting risk. You've made it quite clear that you've given yourselves the power to mask our kids against our will. We will continue to fight you on this point until you knock it off. Having a power and whether it's wise to exercise it are two totally distinct topics. One final question. What authority does this board have to require masking for this meeting? There's no mask mandate in the city, county, or state. Thank you.
Good evening.
Hello.
In the past couple of years, I've come to really pay attention to what's going on around me. Coming here to these school board meetings the past few months has opened my eyes to many things. Firstly, Dr. Nichols, thank you for putting a masking matrix on next week's agenda. However, with the last two meetings having nothing on the agenda in regards to masking, a message was sent rather loudly to us parents with an opposing view. You are not listening to us. For months on end, we have been here pleading our case with little or no response from you. If you were truly taking into consideration our thoughts and concerns, this would have been on every single agenda. Furthermore, I have no idea what a matrix is or who is drafting it. That I know of. I don't know of any other districts using a matrix. I do know that after the last board meeting, it was very clear that the legal guidance you are receiving is very one-sided. Mask optional is the only thing the board needs to be voting on. We want our rights as parents, not another tool to give us restrictions. When it comes to make health decisions to our children, I notice also that the PTA is constantly recording the meetings in this room that takes place in here. That's also a very biased organization, and I'm guessing that the recording is not happening tonight, which is kind of odd. Shouldn't those leaders be a neutral party? There's a constant communication thread going on here with the PTA, happening live for the other side to see and hear what all's taking place. And it's very evident that all the decisions you are making are to the benefit of that side kicking and screaming the loudest while ignoring our thoughts and concerns, all the while our children suffer. So when it comes to your matrix, will it be designed with a neutral, non-biased thought process? Will you be segregating our students in the classroom? How did our society get so perverted in thinking that the God-given air we breathe is somehow toxic? What is toxic is this process and how it has been handled. I pay attention and I see so much that is happening and my eyes are wide open. I'm no longer willing to continue to allow powers that be to make decisions for me. As Benjamin Franklin said, those who give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserves neither liberty or safety. Give us back our liberty and make masks optional with no restraints. It's not complicated. It's actually a very simple thing to do. And Ms. Lestman, in your remarks last meeting, you said it was all about the little kids, the most vulnerable, who would not be able to get a vaccine. Well, I'm here to tell you, I am a pre-K teacher. I have 14 students with me on a daily basis who are on non-masked and have been all year. We're in the floor playing, we're eating lunch together. They're playing with the same toys. They're outside playing with another classroom and music. They're not sick. Their immune system is healthy and strong, and they will survive this sickness. Stop it. Stop it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Willer?
All right, I'm not here about COVID. I'm here about Bob Jones baseball. So, 2020, we had a student that graduated named Mitch Daly. He went on to play for Texas, actually played second base in the national championship. Not made it to the semifinals. On the television, ESPN gave a shout out to Bob Jones. Finally, after all this time with his other players playing at Auburn and Alabama and other schools, he got a shout out on Bob Jones' Twitter account for baseball. My wife responded with simply, "Nice to see that someone from Bob Jones has finally given a shout out to Mitch Daly. Way to go, Mitch. Congratulations." She was banned from the Twitter account. Turns out that Mitch Daly, his father, a 3-star general, now 4-star general, and his wife and 5 other players have made complaints about Bob Jones' baseball coach, Coach Smith, belittling them, threatening them. He even, I found out, threatened my stepson. I had 2 sons who graduated from there, one in 2020, one in 2021. So it's 5 years of total baseball these kids played. Talking about, you laughing while we're practicing? How about if I get one of these pitchers come up and hit you with a few fastballs? Bet you won't laugh then. Things like that. All this going on, and there's been plenty of stuff. Other people have come forward to Mr. Terrell and Dr. Nichols. I've got here emails from half a dozen parents talking about all the problems they've had with their kids and with Coach Smith's attitude. And the response she gets from him is, "Miss Brosnan," that's her maiden name, "we have received an email regarding your Twitter account. Coach Smith is our coach and we trust his judgment when it comes to making decisions pertaining to our baseball program. Coach Smith has chosen to block your account and we respect his decision as our coach." Well, also on this Twitter account, he has allowed this Coach Rasmus, who is, Russell County baseball coach, who was convicted of 3rd-degree assault of one of his baseball players, choking him out and hitting him in the dugout. But he's still allowed to make Twitter comments. In fact, I even have a couple of them on here if you want to see them. So our coach's judgment, where he's banning teachers who have supported this program for years, and playing baseball at Bob Jones is not cheap. You're talking $2,000 a season, plus hundreds of hours of volunteer time required. And here we are sitting here, my wife, who wants to buy season tickets for her father, who has been going to Bob Jones baseball games for a decade, can't even find out when the games are because they change regularly for weather. Twitter's the best way to find out if you should even drive, 75 years old, over to Bob Jones and see a baseball game. I can tell you right now, none of my money is ever going to go to Bob Jones again, even though I live 2 or 3 blocks away. I'm going to put all my time and effort into James Clemens on the other side of school. If he wants to go to a season ticket, I'm gonna buy it for over there. So if you guys sit here and say you want transparency, you want everybody to know what's going on, how come we're blocking parents from being able to see what's going on in Twitter accounts when our tax money's paying this guy, our tax money's paying for that school and that field, but I can't see what's going on with the Bob Jones baseball program because it's blocked because his petty little feelings have been hurt because somebody points it out because somebody badmouthed him, so now he blocks anybody that says anything about it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else, Ms. King? All right. So that concludes our public comments. Now we move to action items. Dr. Nichols.
Mr. Vice President, members of the board, I recommend for approval the consent agenda items as listed before you. A, minutes 21-24, October the 12th of 2021. B, an agreement by and between the City Board of Education and Alabama Agricultural and Mechanical University for repair and services of vehicles. C, change order number 1 for the Heritage Elementary School HVAC renovations with no change to the final budget. D, change order number 2 for the Heritage Elementary School HVAC renovations for an increased amount of $1,770. And E, an owner and engineer agreement by and between the City of Madison Board of Education and Mechanical Design Services for the Rainbow Elementary School HVAC renovation. F, an owner and agreement by and between City of Madison Board of Education Mechanical Design Services for the Columbia Elementary School HVAC renovation.
Board, the superintendent have make a recommendation for business item A. 1A through F is a group, can we group them all or do we have to vote individually? Group is fine. Well, can I have a motion and a second?
So move.
Second.
So vote?
If I could, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Chair.
Comments?
I've got several in here. First of all, I wanted to just give the board some information update on item 1B. This is a yearly agreement that we've had for several years with Alabama A&M, and they have a smaller fleet than we have, so our folks do service and basic repair on their fleet. Now, this year it's a little different. In the past, we've had about 13 diesel buses and 1 truck, but this year Alabama A&M has converted and has about 4 diesel buses and 8 new electric buses. Our folks will do the regular fluid maintenance on those. We won't do the electrical work, although Dr. Scrimpture is looking at in the future, there are districts around the country that have created career and technical programs so that students could learn the skill of working on electric engines. And so we're looking into, as you know, in our capital plan, adding a 3rd bay to our transportation department, that bay would be a classroom/bay, that in the future sometime we might offer that course for our students and do those repairs. You know, right now, a diesel bus is cheaper than an electric bus, but the prices are catching up. And so I just wanted you to be aware that this agreement does change some of their buses and that we will do the maintenance on that. The other 2 change orders, you have a C and D change order at Heritage Elementary School, and Johnny Eccles is here to give us an update on what these changes are prior to your vote. Johnny, if you come up here and tell us just a little bit about these change orders.
So any renovation that we do, we always discover some unknowns once the ceilings go down and we get in there and the contractors start working. We have an allowance on these projects to cover some of those unknowns. And so the first change order is a no-cost add change order because we had enough in there to cover it. What was found on that is the existing gate valves on the domestic cold and hot water systems were old globe valves, and when your maintenance staff was, using the valves to isolate different areas, they'd open them back up, they'd leak. So they had requested the contractor while they were in there to go ahead and make those replacements. So that is some of that. Some of it is some unknowns with the gas system that was there. That is the second change order that ended up pushing us over the allowance that we had. Some kitchen equipment had been added and is pulling the gas system down. So that was just items that had been needed that has just addressed things that have been done to the school over time.
Thank you, Johnny.
Yes, sir.
Board questions, Mr.
Board, do you have any questions?
When you said you're gonna change the gate valves because they were leaking, that's really an important thing to do, to where if you wanna isolate a system, you need to completely stop that water, correct?
It is, and without isolating the entire school.
Yeah.
So, because if they have to take the whole school down, then we have major issues for the kids where they can't use the facilities, so.
And I remind the board that we did Horizon and Heritage. The other two agreements on their E and F are to begin the process of design and work on Rainbow and Columbia. And so remind the board that this is money that came out of the $1 billion bond that the state did and gave to us. And as part of our capital plan, we are utilizing all of that money for an upgrade of our older buildings, HVAC systems, bringing them up to par. And that Liberty will also we'll come back and have an agreement on Liberty in the future. And we're trying to get ahead of the game because of delivery of items and those types of things. So that's one reason they're on here now. So.
Correct, and I'm glad that you mentioned the delivery of items. Right now, the supply chain is beyond strained, as most everyone knows at this point in time, so we're having to get ahead of the curve. And also with it being the bond money, it has another level of review on the state's side, and so it's taking twice as long at least to get the contracts approved to where the contractors can actually start the work. So we're trying to get these out. Our intent is to send the plans down to the DCM in December and then look to bid in January, to where we have plenty of time before the kids get out in May for the equipment to get in. And if that's my phone, I apologize.
That's the DCM calling, John.
So we're trying to get ahead of the game, give everybody plenty of time to where we get to equipment materials in. And we are going to add some IAQ devices to all the schools that we're doing. We did it at Heritage and Horizon as well. So we standardized on that with all schools, but we also do it in any of the office buildings and that sort of thing like that we're designing as well. So,
Well,
What
thank
did you call it?
IAQ, indoor air quality. So it's ionizers that help battle against, and it's not just a COVID thing, it battles against bacteria and other viruses and cleans the air better, and it's just a healthier indoor environment, because it doesn't only attack just the contaminants in the building, but also the contaminants that we produce ourselves, and so.
Is it a UV light system or?
It's not UV, it's bipolar ionization is what it is, and the reason that we're not doing the UV is the UV lamps, as soon as they are turned on, that is the strongest they will ever be, and they degrade over time, so it's hard to gauge where their effectiveness. So the ionizers are easy to gauge and to read. We have them commissioned. Once the job is complete, the commissioning agent comes in and the IAQ, and they actually read the ion levels that we are producing in the field to make sure they agree with our IAQ calculations to produce in a safer indoor environment.
So our maintenance team can go there and take a reading and understand what the air quality is in
Yes,
school?
sir. And their maintenance is simple. There's dust in the airstream, so sometimes they may have to wipe a little bit of dust off the tubes. And then once the tube life is passed, then you just replace the tube and go on. So it's just easier to maintain and watch those systems than the UV lamps.
So let's just say, if we're talking about filters, does that save on using that system instead of trying to buy high efficiency filters every so often?
It does, and high efficiency filters are problematic in the fact that it can limit us in our equipment that we can install, being that their pressure drop is so high. Once you get into a true HEPA or a MERV 16 plus and that sort of thing, the pressure drop gets to where you have to use a more specialized equipment, and sometimes it even kicks us out of certain types of equipment. So Rainbow and Columbia are water source heat pumps, and to try to put HEPAs in those systems, the fans wouldn't be able to produce the airflow needed.
Good information.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Any other comments, board?
On the A&M contract, I know we've had some change in the personnel with our with our facilities department as far as the maintenance. Do we have enough personnel and experienced personnel to take care of that contract?
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Anything else? No? Let's hold vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstains? Motion approved. Dr. Nichols?
Mr. Vice President, members of the board, I recommend for your approval, Resolution Number 21-01. This is a resolution supporting military families and the Purple Star Program.
Board, the superintendent has recommended approval of Resolution 21-01, resolution supporting military families Purple Start Program. Can I have a motion and a second?
So move.
Second.
We got a motion. Dr. Nichols, you have any?
Yes,
comments?
sir. The Purple Star Program is a national program recognizing schools that go above and beyond to communicate, to support, and to work with our military families. The state of Alabama Department of Education this year approved this program. Some other states had approved it. Alabama now has approved it. And there are 3 requirements to have a liaison, to have an S-to-S program. All the requirements are there for our schools to receive this designation. We do those already. And we were one of the folks who pushed our state to recognize this designation for the Purple Star. But there are some optional requirements you have to do to meet that. And one of those is to have a resolution presented by the Board of Education recognizing that the school district as a whole is military friendly, working with our families that move here. We're in line to have our schools reach out to have this designation. We want our schools to have this designation. So that's one reason that our team felt like that we wanted to present this to you as the board. We've been working with the state and encouraging the state to take this designation on from the State Department level, so we're glad they have.
Board, do you have any comments? Let's call for a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstains? Motion passes. Dr. Nichols?
Mr. Vice President, members of the board, I recommend for your approval a school resource officer and crossing guard agreement by and between the City of Madison Board of Education and the City of Madison for this school year.
Board, the superintendent has recommended approval of a school resource officer and crossing guard agreement. Can I have a motion and a second?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lesman, second by Mr. Comments. Dan, do you have any comments?
Yes, sir. Mr. Vice President, members of the board, this is our standard agreement that we have, just like last year's. There is an additional set of days for our SROs and our crossing guards due to being in school and being 180 days. We have 11 resource officers. We also have in there, as part of the agreement, to make sure that our resource officers have the opportunity to attend the School Resource Officer Conference, and we have that as part of it as well. And so we really, Officer Jewell and Sam, Officer Scott are here, and they represent just a couple of our resource officers who do a great job for us in the school district, and we certainly wouldn't want to have school without them. And so I would just, this is an agreement that we've had in the past, and no changes otherwise.
Board, any comments? No comments. Let's call for a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? Motion passes. Dr. Nichols, personal actions.
Yes, sir. Mr. Vice President, members of the board, I recommend for your approval the supplemental contracts that are presented for you for Madison City Schools.
It's a group file.
Mhm.
Board, the superintendent has recommended approval of supplemental contracts. Do we have any comments?
Yes, sir. The bulk of these are after-school tutoring programs, part of our extended learning program, and the use of our ESSER money this year is to address after-school learning. And so the bulk of these are teachers who will provide after-school and sustained tutoring for students. We look across our ACAP scores. We identify those students that may be in level 1, some in level 2. We make sure we communicate with their parents to make sure that they know these opportunities that we have and provide the after-school and sustained learning for these students, as well as some Title I tutoring that we use. We get a small amount of federal money based on Title I, and we use that for Title I tutoring as well. Dr. Donaldson, anything you want to share about our tutors? Okay.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Can I have a motion and a second?
So move.
Second.
Does the board have any comments? Sure. Okay, let's call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstains? Motion passes. Dr. Nichols.
Mr. Vice President, members of the board, I present for your approval a list of substitutes for the Madison City Schools.
Board, the superintendent has recommended the approval of the substitute list. Can I have a motion and a second?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments?
Only thing I would comment, Dr. Jock can correct me, I think this gets us almost close to 300 on the total list of substitutes this year. Is that right, Dr. Jock? Very close to 300. I think a few weeks ago it was about 256, and then we had a small group, so we're getting close to having 300, but we're continuing to take enrollment and take substitutes.
All right. Board, do we have any comments? No. Let's call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? Motion passes. Dr. Nichols.
Mr. Vice President, members of the board, I recommend for your approval the contracts for the Access Program.
Board, the superintendent has recommended approval of access program contracts. Can I have a motion and a second?
So move.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Dr. Nichols?
Yes, sir. Mr. Vice President, members of the board, as the board is aware, Access is a statewide online program, and we house one of the 3 hubs across the state. The other 2 are at Tuscaloosa and Troy. We are and have been since the inception of Access. These contracts are contracts that Access develops for teachers who will teach these courses online. They are not all Madison City school teachers. They're across our whole region that we use. The state pays for these teachers, and we are basically the agent that they pay and pass through for the teachers who will teach the online access courses. So you're approving that. It's coming through the state funding, not our local funding, as Access is. So these are Access teachers from across the region that teach students online, and it's a pass-through from the state to us to pay their salary.
All right.
Just a pass.
Does the board have any comments or questions? All right. Let's call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? Motion passes. Superintendent comments.
Well, I have one more there. We have just the regular personnel action, so I recommend
yes.
for your, Mr. Vice President, members of the board, recommend for your approval the remainder of the personnel actions that are extended leaves and resignations, transfers, retirements, and employments as presented before you.
Board, the superintendent has recommended approval of personal actions. Can I have a motion and a second?
So move.
Second.
Any comments?
No, sir.
Let's call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? Motion passes.
Mr. Vice President, I would like to recognize that we missed one last agenda. Sherry Schickel retired 25 years as a clerical aide at Madison Elementary School. She did an extremely great job for us, working with the students. The staff there say just attention to detail and support that she gave, and they will miss her. And then on this agenda, Heather Chafin is retiring. She began her teaching career in 1997 as a gifted enrichment teacher in Limestone County and came to Madison City Schools in 1999. During her career, she taught kindergarten, first grade, second grade, fourth grade, and sixth grade at Heritage Elementary in Mill Creek. She worked in our EL camps in the summer. She worked throughout to engage her students. She developed classrooms with glow-in-the-dark names and anything she could to enhance her students. Mrs. Taylor Tubb states on a personal note, she was glad that both of her sons had her as a teacher, and that she will truly be missed for the extremely great job that she did. And we wish her well as she goes into this new phase of her life. So we thank her so much for her service.
Thank you, sir. Now, back to superintendent comments.
Yes, sir. First of all, I want to thank again Ruby and Sam for being here with us. We appreciate them and the work that they do. We had a kickoff today for our impact aid. This is vitally important to our district. We're met with the Madison County and Huntsville City School District, and we are one in every 4 students in Madison City School is connected to the DOD or federal programs in some way. We've been able to take that 26%, around 26% student enrollment, and utilize that for Department of Defense grants. In the past 10, 15 years, upwards of $10 million in grants to help us start new programs. We've taken the funding from the impact aid, which is somewhere around $380,000 a year, been about almost $4 million in the last 10, 15 years, and utilize that for several things. One, we've been able to look at our initiatives for reading and math and to engage that money, but also our special education students. We've utilized that to develop and expand programs and opportunities in our DD program and other areas. So without that money, it would really be a challenge. That money, as the board knows, is in lieu of property tax. So Redstone and other federal areas, in lieu of their property tax, we have the opportunity to regain some of that through impact aid funds. So I would just encourage all of our parents, when those forms come home, please take the time to fill those out and get those back to your local school. Those dollars really do assist us. So that's all I have at this time.
Thank you. Ms. Lessman?
Just to reiterate what Dr. Nichols said about those impact aid forms, I was able to go to that kickoff this morning as well, which was really nice. We had Colonel Mellor there, and he was the first one to sign his impact aid form. I believe he said there was 3,000, a little over 3,000 students at Madison City that are either military or DOD related, that their parents work there. So please fill that out. That's very important. Also want to thank everybody that came out for the public comments. And bringing those items to our attention and the different perspectives. We appreciate that. Thanks.
Mr. Comments?
Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Thank you for your comments. I will say that I'm sure, Dr. Nichols, you and your team are going to look into Mr. Wheeler's concerns.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not sure if we have written protocol that says if what justifies you being locked out of a school account. Maybe we can look into that and see if there's some language that we have in there that speaks on that. That's it.
I'd just like to say thank you for coming. Thank you for addressing the board. We listen. You might think we don't, but we do. We take in consideration everything that is given to us. I believe based on if we were to provide any additional changes, those changes will be provided to the public in advance. So the public will have a chance to view whatever process, procedures, and metrics that will be presented and voted on. Our next meeting is going to be the Finance Committee meeting, and it's going to be November 4th, 2021 at 4 p.m. at the Superintendent Conference Room. We're also going to have a school board meeting November the 4th, 2021 at 5 p.m. We are about to enter a executive session. Once we adjourn the executive session, we will vote in the matter, and we will adjourn the board. So with that said, the board would like to enter an executive session to discuss with legal counsel the option for the ramifications and pending litigation of controversies imminently likely to be litigated. Mr. Sanderson, does the topic of the executive session meets the requirement for an executive session? All right. Board, I would like to have a motion and a second to enter an executive session.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's go for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? Motion passes. We enter.
Executive session in 5 minutes, so that'll give us time to clear the room, and then we only will act on that business action when we come out of executive session.